Hi, my name is Rolf, and welcome to On Air with SICK, where we discuss insights from industry experts on autonomous mobile robots, or AMRs, in the material handling industry. Today on our show, I'm joined by two special guests from the Women in Robotics Boston group. Our first guest is Dharini Dutia, Robotics Software Engineer at Vecna Robotics. Our other guest is Sanjuksha Nirgude, Advanced Controls Engineer at Symbotic, LLC. Both of our guests are organizers of the Women in Robotics Boston group, a professional network for women who are working or aspire to work in robotics. We discuss how to encourage more women to get involved in the field of robotics and what it is like to be a woman in a male-dominated field. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Dharini, let me ask you, what are some ways to best encourage more women to join in the science and technology fields?
Being better role models, like for me, like I'm already working in the field, so I'm assuming that for me it's to like improve and be a better role model for people who are coming in, and trying to share the stories of women who are already successful, making their stories accessible to everybody, saying so a lot of times I've noticed that their stories are being shared in such a way that despite being a woman, this person did this. So why is that? We want to be able to share that, like more normalizing it and not being
Sanjuksha, do you have anything else to add or comment?
I think it's a young age where we actually get interested into robotics or fields like this or anything STEM related. You see a bunch of people doing something and are like, oh, that looks cool. I want to do that too. I mean, especially at a young age, people look at grown-ups and, oh, I want to be like her. I want to be like him, something like that. And I think if we show the young people showing like how cool robots are, and I wouldn't be talking about all the STEM fields because I personally can say about robotics. I think if I can show the young people, girls, like how cool robots are and how we use these days, what all technology exists, I'm sure there are different ways they would be interested in it.
Thing I would like to add, though, I think a lot of people a lot of kids and women and little kids are already interested in robotics per se, but I think the problem lies that we need to make the path more accessible and more inclusive.
I went to school many years ago. I majored in electrical engineering, later became a systems engineer, but there was only one female in our group of students. And we started in our particular group with 64, and there was only one. But you talk about a role model, she was always leading the class in quizzes and everything else. And many of us male students would look up to her as being somebody to really follow her study habits and how well she did, how well she fit in. And it was, I would have never expected that many years ago for there to be a woman. It was quite a surprise to me to be in class. But today, I think things are quite a bit different. And it's very much more common. And myself, I don't even give it a second thought. Would you concur with that from your experience?
One thing here is that we need to kind of stop making STEM fields seem like a big mountain. It is difficult, like any other field is. Like if you want to be successful, you need to work hard. But we need to stop making it like it's not like, oh, this person is doing engineering or this woman is in engineering. It's not, and it needs to be more normalized. And from my experience, I think that what you shared is actually still the case. Like not in our batch, but a batch after us, like our juniors, there was just like one woman in the entire batch in robotics at WPI. So I think that is still there in a lot of universities as well. And secondly, about the surprise factor, whenever I introduce myself to anyone and like I say that I'm a robotics engineer, the most common reaction is like a surprise on their face, like, oh wow. And and I'm always like, okay, why is that? Like, it's because like what's going on in their heads? Why does it surprise? Like, because so many years women are like into engineering already. So yeah, that's my experience.
Yeah, I totally agree with Dharini here. And I think most of us must have faced the situations where people get surprised by the fact. And it's not just for some of my friends, not female friends. They are people get surprised. Oh, that's robotics. It's a cool field. That's a very nice field. And that is what a reaction that I would like to get as well. Just because I'm a girl, I don't want to be like, oh, you're a girl in robotics. I just want to be a robotics engineer. And that is what I want people to say, oh, nice. Robotics is a cool field. You're doing great. That's it.
Sure, just more or less treat it as an equal. Many years ago, when I worked with a automotive company, and I was working with controls and sensors and those types of technical type products that are often used in robotics, and they had plenty of robotics in this automotive plant. They had something unusual happen. For the first time in the history of that company, they had a female electrical apprentice. All the electrical maintenance personnel were males. And it was very obvious to me that they treated her differently. They were very rough. They gave her the dirtiest jobs, constantly testing her. I felt sorry in a way that they're abusing her, in my opinion. But she took it very well. And what I did to try to help her, I went out of my way to try to teach her a little bit more about what I was familiar with in controls and how it worked in the automotive industry, kind of above and beyond the duty. And she really took to this, really accepted it. But she did fit in eventually. She won her place, so to speak, but she had to earn it. But she did win her place. But then, not too long ago, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I was reading one of the updates. She not only has progressed, she was appointed the plant manager of that same plant. I was so proud that she advanced like that. I thought that was just outstanding. So definitely things have changed over time. Now,
yeah, they definitely have. I don't think recently I have seen any such places. I mean, at least personally, I would say I've never experienced something that is that I'm given a hard time because I'm a girl. It has never happened to me, and I'm glad that we have progressed so much that we are treated equally at workplaces and everything. And I'm just glad that we don't have to face those problems that she did.
I'm really glad that you were that supportive. I think we need more people like you, even now. Just being not seeing the gender and just seeing the brain, because whoever was hired, like you said, they deserve to be there. They had those qualifications, and if they're that curious, that interested, they should be treated equally and not outcasted just because the materials are a little bit difficult to handle or something like that. Whatever it is, if they're being taught like that, they will definitely progress. And I haven't faced anything like that now. Everything's completely changed, and but yeah, that's great. We do need people to see things like that and be more supportive.
I think the main thing was she earned their respect. She had to work for it, but she earned it, eventually gained it, and as a result, progressed in her career with that particular company. I felt like I really contributed toward her progression, so I felt very good about it anyway.
We need more people to think like you.
How did you decide to work in the field of robotics?
So for me, I was in high school when a local engineering college people, they just, some students came in, they demonstrated, just made a small mobile robot, just a few sensors, ultrasonic sensors, the small ones that you get at the local stores. And they just made this thing out of almost a few parts, and I was so amazed at first. Oh wow, this is cool. I mean, I really wanted to do that, and I was like, wow, if I could do this, I could get paid to do something that I love. And that is when I actually started. Unfortunately, at that time, there were not a lot of robotics programs around where I lived. So I did my mechanical engineering, and obviously there was small things that I could say. I used to go watch TikToks about it. Fortunately, my school had a minor in robotics, and that's how I started getting into it.
As a kid, I always wanted to work in space exploration, and since then, like I've always been more interested in physics and mathematics. That's why I selected to go for electronics engineering, and like during that time, I got a lot of opportunities to like do hobby projects and like tinkering with electronics. From there, I was like thinking about what I can do to pursue space science, and I found that there was one way to go forward with robotics. And yeah, and then after graduation, I actually worked for a drone company, and that kind of more caught my interest more into robotics, and I applied for a program here. And yeah, I don't. There are a few universities that like give robotics as a option, but well, yeah, WPI was really good, so I went for that.
How do you bring different points of view, your point of view, into the equation and in solving problems and working on things?
I don't bring anything different as a woman as such, but definitely as an individual, I think being a fresh mind in the field, which is so broad and so vast, like you always need new ideas, the new ways to think about it. I eventually end up learning a lot about and robotics in general, and also I think robotics is a very vast field. It's so many different fields together, like mechanical, electrical, software, everything. There's always a new way to do things. There is never a monotonous way that you have to do robotics. So I definitely think that is what I bring as an individual.
Yeah, I guess the reason I asked that question was that as a woman in a male dominated field like robotics, had the idea that maybe you might be too passive, trying to fit in too well with other people's thinking, and you might hesitate to bring in different points of view.
So I think that depends on like individuals. Some of them are outspoken. Some of them like are really confident in what they're trying to say, and some of them are like introverts. They're really shy to coming up with any kind of idea, even good or bad. This should be handled by the company, by the manager. I think my supervisor has always been open about it, and me as a person as well. I am pretty honest about everything. Even if I make a mistake, I just like go up to them and just say that this is what I think. I've never found myself. Well, I am nervous while if there is senior management around, and if we're discussing or brainstorming a feature. But they have always been polite and made me comfortable to speak out, and that's what I think is how it should be.
Very good. Sanjuksha, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I actually do agree with Dharini. It's about the workplace and the environment, the people you work with that encourage you to do things. I mean, I would any day prefer someone to give me a task and just believe that I can do it, and that makes a lot of difference. If your seniors believe that you can do something, you just give it another try. And I agree, some people are do shy, especially some women are. I think if you are in the field and you're working with the women, you should definitely encourage them to speak up and just grow in the field.
Where did each of you go to college?
We actually went to the same college, graduate school.
Yes.
And
So,
where was that?
It was Worcester Polytechnic Institute.
Why did you decide on where to go?
For me, it was when I was applying to graduate schools, I was pretty specific with my program that I wanted to do robotics engineering specifically. And WPI had a great program. I think they're the first ones who actually had a robotics undergraduate program as well. Well, I was going for masters, of course. And again, Boston area, the whole New England area in general is called the robotics cluster. I thought WPI, due to its like great faculty and amazing program in general, along with the bonus point of having so many robotics companies around them, just made me sure that this was my first choice.
Well, for me, I did my undergrad in Mumbai, in India. After that, I came here for a master's. And while selecting university, WPI had like a great involvement in the NASA DARPA Space Robotics Challenge, and that was my main reason to select that.
Both of you have your master's degrees. What did you do right after getting your master's degree? Can you give me a progression of your careers?
Sure. So I personally started just looking for jobs, and fortunately, I did end up with a very good one. So now I'm a controls engineer in robotics at Symbotic, and I really love it. Like when you actually code something and it works, it's the best feeling. And I think that is where I actually use my knowledge from my master's degree and grow it every day. There are problems you face every day that you might have not faced in while doing your master's or something, but industry is definitely different than education. And that is how I'm just trying to grow into it. And of course, starting Women in Robotics with Dharini has been, like in Boston, of course, is been a great pleasure.
Yeah, from my side, after my bachelor's, I worked at a drone-based company. It was called Drone Aviation, and there I worked as an embedded engineer, where like I worked on altitude estimation algorithms and basically everything. I got to apply everything that I learned, and I owe a lot of what I am right now to my supervisor then. After that, I came here for my master's, where I was majorly like my entire master's was like my thesis in multi-robot system. And that's how I landed my current job at Vecna Robotics. It's a warehousing and logistics company. And here I pretty much work on like everything which is robot autonomy. I started with sensor calibration, filtering, and robot navigation, safety system using 6 LiDAR sensors, and path allocation, stuff like that. Apart from that, I've been like involved, like, yeah, as Sanjuksha mentioned, we started a group which is like a subgroup of women in robotics global community. We started this at Boston, and that's what we have been trying to do, like organizing some events, some networking events and seminars for women who are aspiring to work in robotics or are already working in robotics.
Why did you decide to form this in this group with women in robotics?
So it was from a personal reason was basically to just try to give back to the community in a way. And well, how I came across this group was I was just like searching for robotic conferences, and Silicon Valley Robotics came up, which is founded by Andra Kay. She's like a huge personality, and she has done a lot of things for the robotics community as well as women in robotics. So I just joined the Slack group, and I saw there were like more than 1,000 women in that community, and I saw that there was a Boston channel as well in it. And that's where, like, when I called Sanjuksha up and I was like, do you know about this group? And like, how do you think that if we can, there's a great opportunity to build a community here in Boston. And that's how it all started.
Yeah, I remember when Dharini called me and I was like, wow, that's a great idea. I mean, that's awesome. If we could really pull this off, this is going to be so great. We're going to meet so many great people. And obviously give back to the community. But so when I was in my undergraduate and we needed some funding, we started going to schools and we actually asked them if their students knew about robots. And I did my undergraduate in Pune, India, and there were so many schools who did not really know much about robotics. There were people who, like schools who had robotics programs. And I went over like 40 schools and really taught the kids basics of robotics. I hope some of them just how I got interested in robotics, if at least one of them got interested in robotics because of me, I would be really, really honored. But so that, and women in robotics again felt something similar to me when Dharini told me about it. I'm like, that's a great idea. There are so many other groups in Boston as well, like Women Who Code, and I think there's a few more. So I have always been to these conferences and seminars, and to have to do something similar with Dharini seemed like a great idea.
I had a technical degree, systems engineering. What I learned was how to learn in college.
Yeah, that is, I actually totally agree. You have to learn how to learn by yourself.
I can actually completely relate to your experience, and since like after my bachelor's, I that's what I felt while during my convocation. I felt like, what is this degree? And I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. But when I actually went down and like got my hands dirty, started working, and that's where learned whatever I know. And I think that's very important too. That's why a lot of universities and companies are hiring interns to have some industry experience and actually learning from practice.
At SICK, my company, we are doing exactly that. We do have a flow of interns, and it has worked out very well for us and for the interns that have worked for us. And many of those interns end up working at SICK later on when they graduate. So it's been very good. What advice would you give to anyone, especially a female, in getting more involved in robotics?
For people who are already interested or aspiring to join robotics, I would say that first of all, stay curious, stay abnormally curious as you can. Like keep on asking your teammates and your peers, like how this code works or how this hardware works, whatever they are working on in robotics, and and not to be like not to stop yourself like thinking what they would think of you, but just keep on asking, and that's how you're gonna learn. There's no other way. Secondly, for women, I would say that don't be afraid to speak up and try to articulate and ask exactly what you need, and don't afraid to like speak out. That's and for people who are like changing fields, I would say that you can get into robotics in many ways. It's not just a technical field. We need a lot of people from different backgrounds, different expertise to help the field advance. But if you want to join in any way, I think whoever wants to join, they can start some sort of hobby projects, and which actually help them in some way, which actually can make their life better. I think that applies to any technology field. Just a bad example from the top of my head is like try to maybe use a controller like Raspberry Pi and use make a clap switch or something like that, which a smart plug or something like that, which helps them in some way. So try to find problems around you and see how robotics or any piece of technology can help you solve that. That's how you can enter the field and learn more about it.
Sanjuksha, do you have anything to add?
My advice to especially a woman who wants to be involved in robotics, in one line, join Women in Robotics wherever you are. They are everywhere. They are in every country or anywhere. Or you can just join online or anything. and you'll meet so many people just like yourself who just want to get into it. I mean, that's the basic one, of course. Other than that, so I have been to a couple of conferences, and there were some students coming up to me, and even someone who was working in different field coming up to me. We really like what you do, and robotics is great, but I don't know if I can do it. You know, and I just want to say to all of these women, if I can do it, you definitely can. Just look at all of these great personalities who have already done it. I mean, we think there are not a lot of women in robotics, but that's not true. Maybe in our batch or something, but in general, there are a lot of people who have been to the epitome of robotics. So many of them are women. So just look at them, and I think if they can do it, everyone can. Other than that, you can watch so many videos online these days. Information is not scarce in today's world. Just get into it, just start something. And the more you get into it, the more you understand and you'll do better.
Where do you see robotics, the industry itself, heading, and what are you most excited about?
I can actually see robots and robotic solutions entering into like daily lives of people and as well as companies. A lot of people are trying to inculcate robotic solutions in their process, and I think that's really exciting. But I actually want to see how people perceive them. It's robotics is not a kind of replacement. It's not gonna steal any jobs. I hope it is perceived as a tool which enables humans to do much better things, which are beyond their capabilities. So I hope perception changes over time. Apart from that, I'm kind of excited about seeing a swarm of robots in space as well. NASA has some program which is working on sending a swarm of robots to Mars. I'm really excited about that.
For me, I think robotics is almost everywhere. I mean, it's from rehabilitation to space, everywhere, everything, everywhere there is robotics. I'm really excited to see what all other fields come up in which robotics is being used. Personally, I am very fascinated by self-driving cars and aerial robots as well. Don't have a lot of them right now, like the aerial robots, and I would really love to see more and more of them coming up. I think I'm totally interested and excited about seeing what all fields of life would robotics be touching.
I think this pandemic that we're experiencing has also increased the applications for robots, especially collaborative robots that are working hand in hand with humans. I think the pandemic has provided the opportunity for more of these kinds of applications to be brought to the forefront.
Yeah, definitely. Like, for example, in like my industry in supply chain as well, because during the pandemic, it's really difficult for like people to enter the warehouse and work regularly. They're like trying to get more robots to help them do that. And now even we are planning remote deployments as well, where we try to work out with whatever resources we have and deploy robots without any manual assistance.
At WPI, there was this program for tele-nursing robot that a professor started, and I just cannot help but imagine like how good it would have been if it was actually in the hospitals today. Like people are getting infected while treating others. I mean, I have some friends who are doctors, and it's so heartbreaking to see that they are helping others, but they are also getting affected by COVID. And I wish if robots could have been there, just providing stuff to the patients and the one who are suffering so that it doesn't spread. It would have been a great development in technology. That technology can help us fight COVID. Hopefully, someday we would have actual robots in hospitals interacting with humans and helping us fight such pandemics in future.
And I just want to thank you so much for spending the time with me this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
It's our
It
pleasure.
was really
Well, that's all for today's episode of On Air with SICK. Thanks for listening, and thank you to Dharini and Sanjuksha for discussing their experience in the field of robotics and the impact of their organization, Women in Robotics Boston. If you ever want more information on anything we talk about in this podcast, send us an email at info@sick.com. Until next time, I'm Rolf Agner, and this has been On Air with SICK.